The MindSide, Ep.6, a conversation with Gavin Babcock about the mental side of disc golf. Gavin Babcock is brought to you by Discmania Discs, Titan Disc Golf, Sweets Kendamas, Zone Sporting Goods, and Pound Disc Golf. Welcome to the MindSide, Gavin Babcock. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, what you got going right now? Are you home?
Yep. I'm in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Ironically, this off season, my girlfriend's working at Arkansas State, so we got an apartment down here. And yeah, just been working out and retooling the backhand, and it's basically just a couple hours of field work, a couple hours of working out, and each day, and then working on whatever I can find, whether it's a YouTube video or social media or something in the off time.
Yep, there you go. Staying busy.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So we'll just jump right into it. We're here to talk about the mind, so may as well get there. You mentioned your physical regimen. Is there anything in there that you're working on that has to do with strengthening your focus or your mind?
I think it just, for me, the sense of kind of self-gratification I get and like reassurance I get in my ability comes through like a really hard workout. And if like once I've completed it, it's kind of like a little bit of a like, all right, yeah, like you're the man type of thing. Just kind of just like a little self-ego boost, a little bit of where you just feel really good afterwards. So for me, that like is a big part in being confident, is just having a really good workout routine. And when that kind of slips, then my like kind of goes hand in hand where the mental might start to slip a little bit. So yeah, working out is kind of the mental confinement for me, to where it just is like constantly keeping me sharp. And as long as I'm pushing myself and not being lazy in there, which I make sure not to be, then we're pretty on top of it.
Yeah, and the dedication of that, and those small victories, because you can get excited for a workout, but you can dread a workout as well.
Yeah, it's finding those like little successes each day that kind of compound into just making every day like a good day and feeling like a sense of accomplishment, kind of.
So what is the mental side of disc golf to you?
I think for me, it's kind of just being present and not letting your mind wander on all the what ifs and worries and whatnot, and just trying to really stay in the present moment and focused, and then trust in all your abilities and practice and everything. I don't necessarily, I like in practice, I'll create little scenarios where it's like, all right, this putt's for the win, to kind of test um, that mental side of it, kind of, or just little mental scenarios I create for myself. But I don't necessarily think of those moments like when the actual moment comes. It's more just if I can clear my head and focus. And I mean, some of the best rounds I've ever played, it's hard to remember the full rounds, because it really is almost just like a little blackout mode you enter, where it's just full zone in focus, not thinking about anything, and then just letting the body know what it does.
Yep. Yeah. That's it. So how do you get yourself to that place? Is it just, do you find it automatic, it's there when it's there, or do you find that you can kind of come in and out of it?
For a while, I would kind of get confused on where, or like when it comes and goes, and why it's not always there. But I think for me, the biggest thing is finding like a good routine throughout the week,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of sticking to that. And if I can, whether that's just solid diet, like solid warm up before my practice rounds, and just taking everything much more serious. Because these last couple of years, I've tended to play some of my best golf of the like season at at every major. It just, I mean, last year, Champions Cup, Worlds, USDGC, they were like my three best finishes, and then this year they were some of my best finishes, also. And I think I was wondering why that was, and I think just because of how big like the meaning and the title is and how it feels, I unknowingly was kind of putting more effort into those weeks. And then it made me kind of think like, why aren't you doing that every week, of like having that solid of a routine? Because it can get tired of just how many weeks on the road of just strict week in, week out routine with not really a big break or anything. But I think with some good management and time management and stuff this year, I think I'll be able to kind of key in and try to find a really good week in, week out routine that is the perfect suit going into each weekend.
Yeah. Well, and then that's huge, being able to figure out how to you're going to a new city, a new course. Maybe you played the tournament last year, so you have some familiarity, but that's your only experience possibly at a lot of those courses. So being able to roll in and learn a course or a couple of courses in a short period of time, that's huge. That's a giant skill that I don't think a lot of people really think about or understand, that are getting into wanting to go on tour or wanting to get into the disc golf life,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Especially I was at NADGT this last week, and I had a bunch of like parents and kids come up to me and like what's it really take to like go out on tour, but and they were kind of talking like logistics, like money and stuff. But I mean, their kid might play a lot of tournaments and they might be playing some new courses, but when you're doing this, you're playing the most demanding courses week in, week out, and constantly having to grind and just figure everything out and be on top of it. Because if you get lazy, then you're not going to be making any money or much of it. But yeah, and so I don't think a lot of people do understand the kind of demanding. Because even though last year I got to revisit most of the courses, which I do think is an advantage, because you can maybe take an extra day off of that week or something, or just go play a different shorter course. Um, but I had a whole new bag, and so it was like I felt like I was playing those courses for the first time again, just because I have shots in my bag that I didn't have last year. So I'm like refiguring out all the holes. So I didn't really get that sense of, oh, I'm back. I know what I threw last year, and can kind of build off that. But yeah, it definitely is very physically and mentally demanding.
Sure. So let's go back to that discipline, and you know, you're relying on working out and being healthy. Where does that come from?
Uh, Definitely my wrestling background. I wrestled for 15 years and into college, and just having I mean, that's really where my work ethic was built from. Just all the days going in super early, getting workout in, school all day, coming back after
Mm-hmm.
another long practice, and just I think I got blessed with some really good coaches. Like even in high school, I think a lot of people kind of just take high school wrestling like, oh, it's just high school. And I mean, I tend to sometimes think of that too, just depending on the school. But our school was like always nationally ranked, and my head coach was unbelievable. My assistant coach was like, he got third at Iowa, All American. So like we had some top dogs that were just instilling hard work and kind of making us into men early. And
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of got lucky with just the environment I was in. And then yeah, and then on in college, my head coach Eric Van Clay was uh, big on. He always said it's the little things, and it's just whether it's, oh, you see a piece of trash, pick it up, and it's just doing. It's easy to do and it's easy not to do, and you can just not do all those little easy things. But if you do all the easy things, they compound over time, and it just is a aspect of kind of hard work a little bit. And yeah, I think I just got lucky there, and definitely the sports background.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and especially wrestling, if you're not on top of it, the consequences can be a little more dire.
Yeah, very, very physical. If you're beating yourself up in your head, then it's going to be a rough practice. So you kind of have to just be a little cocky in the wrestling room, and just keep telling yourself that you're the man and pumping yourself up, positive self talk, and just yeah, it's a grind. And then the diet aspect too. So
Sure. Yeah. Well, in diet too, you can dehydration at, minimum can affect how you're going to play and focus. So
yeah, and that's one of the
huge.
biggest things is I've found is like last year is like just making sure to drink enough water on the course, because then that keeps my mental fresh, and I don't start having those like little lapses. So I always try to make sure to get some food and some water, and just keep pounding water throughout the round, and just to keep that brain sharp, because otherwise by hole like 13, 14, 15, it can start sneaking up and you miss one of those random short 20 footers, and it's like, oh, like I wish I had that back.
Right.
And all just because weren't disciplined and staying hydrated when it's 90 degrees out. And it's like little things like that people don't fully think of, that all play a factor into how your mind works and your focus and everything.
Yep, definitely. So you mentioned positive self-talk. Do you have any any mantras or any sayings that you will repeat to yourself, kind of in that positive self-talk realm?
Mainly just some little stuff. That just like oh, you got this. Like trust it, and then just like kind of some little short words that just last second, like it's like, all right, just like trust it, hit that spot, or just like commit, especially on like if I have a tight line, and like just to empty the mind and just like fully commit to the shot, and just little reminders like that maybe sometimes. And just kind of patting yourself on the back sometimes. Good shot. I think some people can throw a good shot and then still just be like, oh, like just because it wasn't exactly how they wanted it. But I mean, if I throw a shot and it's down there for a putt, I'm gonna tell myself nice shot, and it's just kind of getting that positive energy going. And then the main one though is like I always tell myself, like when something bad happens, like everything happens for a reason. Because there's times where I go bogey, and then I go on this like 5 or 6 holes of like birdies or something, or rattle off a turkey, and where it's only like ends up being 1 down or 4 or 5 down, whatever it is after like the big stretch. But sometimes like it takes one bad hole, and then I just like snap out of it, and it's almost like then by the third or fourth birdie, I'm like, all right, everything has for a reason. Like I did that, so I snap back out of it, and it's trying to find the positives in why things happened in order to just continue to stay ahead and not let that stuff kind of get on too heavy on your mind and start to weigh you down.
Sure. Yeah. And the best thing to do with a mistake is to learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it sounds like that's, I guess the easiest way to turn it around. If you make a mistake, you got to click back in, and then, maybe definitely not going to make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, and if you do, then that's I don't really know if that's always a mental thing, and then it's like then I have to like analyze something else. But yeah, definitely just kind of trying to turn everything into a positive, even in the mistakes, and trying to find little wins.
Yeah. So how do you gather data from your rounds to figure out what you want to work
on? UDisc. I'm actually big on the stats, and I like make sure they're right after the round. Otherwise, I'll go back through and kind of enter them in myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at like circle 1 percentage, or circle 1 in regulation, circle 2 in regulation, I don't really look at fairway hits. That's not always a good stat. And then like putting. And so those are the ones like I kind of reflect on. And so you can kind of see if you're just having a pour off the tee day, or like pour on the green, kind of mix of both. And then if it's on the tee, like were they forehand holes, backhand holes, were they kind of similar hole, like, and really try to narrow that down, and then maybe go put in a little work to try to fix that. But most of my mistakes this year came from backhand, and so like that's why right now I'm just trying so hard to rework my backhand completely, and it's going good so far.
Sure. Do you have an ultimate background or any frisbee background, or you just kind of got into it from wrestling?
I just got into it. It was, I mean, in Iowa, I'd wrestle from like October to basically March, and then March to October, it's when or March, like snow started to melt, and then March to October, I'd play disc golf, and then maybe a couple times throughout the winter if I like had time over winter break and there was no snow on the ground or anything. But it was really just something I really enjoyed to do outside of wrestling, and kind of got into it that way. The seasons just went hand in hand, so I was constantly doing one of them,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and then just kind of slowly progress each summer.
Yeah, just got hooked quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no prior frisbee background or anything. I've always, especially with this, I've been a pretty slow progressor, but I've yet to kind of regress.
You have good traveling companions, it appears, from YouTube, at least. You guys
Mm-hmm.
put on a good show for everybody. But then
Yeah,
bickering in the background.
yeah.
What how much does that support and that I guess the having those good people around help out while you're on tour?
Oh, I mean, that was another thing I kind of take from wrestling is you're just as good as the three main people you surround yourself with. And I mean, it just so happens I found three really solid dudes. They can be goofy, annoying, whatever. I mean, we're not all fully alike, but we've gotten really close over these years. And whether we're always like super close outside of, I mean, we're all pretty close most of the time, um, but I mean, on the course, like we all have the same wants, goals, desires, and I think that's important. Is finding people that have the same goal as you. I mean, we all every week want to win. We all want to be a world champion. We all just want to be the best, and it's easy to create a very positive environment when the three people you're practicing most with all are just constantly pushing each other. I mean, we play every practice round. We play for like the winner or loser buys the winner a drink just at like at the gas station or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll get like a drink list going, and like who owes how many drinks to whoever, and we'll kind of do that. And after each tournament, we get together and we're like, we'll sit down in a circle and be like, all right, hole one, and then just like two down, one down, two over, and be like, oh, like what the heck happened? Freaking, you suck, and just kind of just some light banter, and or just like 4 round tournament. Oh yeah, four down. Oh my gosh, you're nasty. Like how did that? And so we're constantly picking each other's brains, and just kind of pushing each other and giving some light kind of banter with each other to always keep us on our toes. And if someone's really struggling, whatever, then I mean we're really good friends, and we'll just be all right. What's going on? Like let's see if we can get it figured out. And I mean we just kind of help each other out too when we're struggling. See if we got any ideas that can help get them back on track. Because yeah, it's an individual sport, but I think the team aspect is missing a lot in disc golf, in the sense of having these little close knit groups that are pushing each other over and over. Because yeah, I can be by myself in this individual sport and just try my hardest, or I can surround myself with these other three people that have the exact same goal as me, and we're constantly pushing each other to get better. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that our group has kind of just really progressed and I mean, I'm pretty lucky because I'm the low dog in the group, and I mean, all those guys are 1030s, 1040s, and I'm like just over 1020. So I mean, I'm pretty lucky to be in with those guys, but I think they see the potential in me, and it's just a pretty solid environment that goes a long way.
Yeah, that's great. And then, yeah, it's just motivating just to see the successes around you, most definitely. Because if you all have those same goals and seeing, those guys accomplish them, probably feels like it's a part of yours as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I get super stoked when Gannon won USDGC, I accidentally body checked someone trying to like keep me off the green because I just was going down there to give him a hug, and I mean, we were right there, all almost in tears when Isaac won Worlds, and I mean, yeah, just being there for them when they can win is also, it just creates a pretty good support system.
Yeah, security.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a few, but what are some of your goals in disc golf?
Number one, be a world champion. That has always been something I've been so fascinated with. I've wanted what in something, and it just so happens that this is what I got into. But I've always wanted to be the best in the world at one thing, because I think that is the coolest title ever to have. Like at that time, which people make dumb arguments like, "Oh, Worlds doesn't mean anything because you're playing the same people week in, week out." I mean, it's the only 5 round tournament, and it's the biggest field, and yeah, it's the same people, but I mean, it's just like normal golf. Like certain tournaments have more titles, and people put more effort in and kind of taper their weeks to really try to take that one down. And whether people like it or not, it does have a different meaning, and that has always been my goal. But that's like the lofty one. But first, I want to get a win this next year. I mean, I don't even have a B or an A tier win. I just kind of hopped on tour, and
Makes it a little bit harder.
And yeah, totally. Not a whole lot of experience, but I've had enough of really clutch moments that I've got presented with and executed in those moments to know that I'm capable of doing the same in those high pressure situations, just because I know how my mind reacts in that, and I seem to really zone in those like need to get it done moments. But yeah, I mean, I just keep growing the rating, get a win or two, and eventually the end goal. And I mean, I call it a 5 year plan, but in the next 5 years, I mean, even longer. Some people don't do that until their 30s, but I want to win, be the best in the world, as in world champion, and finish one season in top 4 in points.
Okay. Yeah, very good. So what
Show consistency. Consistency is something I always strive for.
Yeah, definitely. And those, yeah, people might argue about world and whatnot, but as a player, you step up to those events and you can feel it. You feel that it's different. Just like
Yeah.
just like anybody who rolls up to their local A tier, they're going to tell that's different than, their C tier or their weekly. There's just something in the air, especially those bigger tournaments, because they are more meaningful to the sport. They're more meaningful to the industry. The sponsors like it. It's written into
Yeah.
pretty much everybody's contract. So, why? Yeah, it's a tangible feeling. So it is bigger, most definitely.
Yeah.
So what? I guess you're going to continue the grind and to push, but what do you think? Okay, let's go to the future. Let's put Gavin Babcock, world champion, up on the podium. What is different between that Gavin and this Gavin?
Just really the amount of hours uh, put in on the practice time. working out, diet, I mean, which is all things I'm working towards. So if I'm putting in, if what I'm doing right now isn't enough to do that, which I'm hoping it is. I mean, this isn't a 9 to 5 job, so our schedules are different throughout the day. I mean, these last couple of days I've needed a lot of sleep, and I've slept in till like 10:30, but I'm just got home at like 7 because I'm going out. I'm playing for 2.5 hours, and then I go to the gym for an hour 45, and then I come home, shower, eat. I do a little stretch or hip mobility thing, and I mean, if this isn't enough, then I'll just have to put in more time. So it's going to be just reps, 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 and being cautious of getting the right reps. I've always been a hard worker, and in these past couple years, I think accidentally in the off season, first year on tour, I didn't really know what to focus on, so I really didn't do a whole lot. Just worked out, but didn't know what to try to improve. Second year, I did a lot, but then I wasn't focusing on the right things form wise, and just got a lot. I got a lot of reps in, but just with the bad form. So now, right now, I've talked with. I'm working with Trent at Slingshot Disc Golf and Seth Muncie, and got a good specific routine to make sure that I nip these problems and can get back on the right track and start putting in high quality reps, and then just get a boatload of them. And then from there, we dial in consistency. And then from there, we win a world title.
So it sounds like that Gavin just has a stronger backhand and just continuing to drive.
Because my forehand this year, I would definitely put myself top 10 forehand. I mean, this year by far the distance. I mean, I rarely, like, this is the first year where I kind of like rarely had like a shank forehand. I mean, it obviously got smoother throughout the year, but it just was so consistent. And then the putting was not a strong year putting, but we're also fixing that. We're kind of slowing the down tempo down. And I mean, even that's already putting my headspace back and like giving myself so much more belief in my putt right now that it's been pretty fun to go out and putt instead of just go out and struggle. So I'm focusing on the right things right now, and yeah, that Gavin has a better backhand.
There you go. Okay, and his putting.
Yeah.
There you go. So you'd mentioned earlier about creating scenarios in practice that kind of put pressure on yourself. What are some drills or some things that you do to make your practice more like tournament?
I mean, it sounds dumb, but even those like drink rounds, I think that's why we play for a drink, is so that like at any point in the round we can't just give up. It's kind of like even though it's so little and it's only a couple dollars, or if it's Alden, 79-cent slushy. So I mean, but it's like the not wanting to lose. So even though it's such a little thing on the line, it's not wanting to come in last place if you're not doing so well. So it's got the constant push, even if you're not having a good round in practice. So those have helped a lot. And then even at USDGC this year, after every practice round, I'd sit on 18 with Gannon, and we would just be like, all right, like this putt's for the win. And then we'd be from like 45 feet, kind of short left, mega death putt. And then we'd kind of bump it back to like 55 or 60, and then just be like, oh, like, would you run this? And then we kind of like move it up and then just create different scenarios. Like, all right, like this is the tie. So like, you definitely have to, and then just kind of talking through scenarios too. But yeah, I mean, it's really just those little things where it's random testers, or we'll be on 17 and just be like, it's like, all right, this is for like share the lead, and it's like a 40-footer or something, and just create some unknowing, or we'll just go stand right next to the basket and just go like this and just fake hold up a camera. And we're just like uncomfortably close to the basket, just like a foot away. And so it's just like a little distraction, but kind of just testing your focus. But
Nice.
it's just kind of doing those little things throughout practice.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you guys do that for each other and to each other. Cause yeah, it's one thing to tell yourself, oh, this is for the win. But when your buddy tells you this is for the win, and it's actually for the win, right? Or at least for a high five, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you, let's say you're in round and I don't know, just a couple things just out of your control. A car honks in your backswing, spit out, you hit a spotter and it kicks out of bounds. Whatever the things outside of your control are that can kind of creep into a round and possibly affect it. How do you manage those sorts of difficulties or outside influences?
Spit outs specifically, I've stopped. I've kind of stopped reacting to, because I if I hit it dead center, it pops back out. I made the putt.
Yep.
It's kind of annoying. I just take a deep breath and just like, oh, like really, and then that's it. And then I can't think about it, because although the disc isn't in the basket, I have to tell myself I made that putt. I created a good stroke. The disc entered the basket exactly how it should have, and that is the equipment's fault, not you. So people can be like, oh, putt soft or whatever. I've seen Isaac Robinson, who putts so soft with ultra soft putters, just get some dead center spit outs that just boom, and to where they should never. So seeing him get spit outs where like someone like Gannon puts firm putters a little harder, nose down, like you'll get those. But I've learned to just stop reacting and just tell yourself you've made the putt because you did. And then the other, like a car honk or the spotter thing, I mean, that's kind of where I just go back to like everything happens for a reason. And so I make sure to finish out that hole good. And then let's say car honks, throw a B, or I shank it. I try to make sure to scramble, get up and down, and then just be like, okay, well, I basically just tell myself like, you could have just thrown it OB anyway, and just kind of create other fake scenarios where like, okay, let's say the car didn't honk and you shanked it OB and then recovered. Like, would you be like, how would you feel about that? And just like different scenarios almost, to make, or like if you didn't hit the spotter and you threw OB and then got up and down from here, you'd probably be pretty happy, and you wouldn't just be stewing over like, oh, I shouldn't hit the spotter and kicked out of bounds. And yeah, so I mean, sometimes it's creating fake scenarios in your head just to not get upset, but ultimately, if you like, I mean, Alden, I'd always kind of felt it and noticed it when I did do it, but Alden pointed out one time, he's like, I literally found a hack for like mental game, and he said to just not react at all with like anything. You can have some, yeah, you can have some like a little fist bump or something on a good shot, whatever, but don't get too amped up. And then if something bad, it's mainly though for the bad, because if you hit a big shot or something, like, I'm a big believer in just raw emotion, whatever comes out comes out. Yeah. But like as long as it, yeah, it's like, yeah. As long as it's for the good. But if you have a bad shot, if there was just a video on your face, like, you shouldn't be able to tell if you threw a bad shot or not. And so if you can dial that in to where I just dunked one in the pond and I just stone cold face, don't react, don't say a sing, don't mumble anything, then eventually, like, and let's say it's all like start the round lack of focus. If I do that enough, eventually by like hole 9, 10, 11, I get this like sense of like, all right, there's like a lot of golf left. Let's go. And then we end up picking it up at some point on those really rough mental days. But yeah, not reacting. eventually it almost is like it channels it into a like in little adrenaline like endorphin rush, and you're just like, all right, let's like finish the day strong, play some good golf, and then you're just, I mean, constantly grinding, doing the best you can, and just don't let yourself react to anything bad.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal, because when you're focused, focus is constant and consistent. So if you're riding that roller coaster of emotion, you're just getting in your own way of your focus.
Yeah.
And that's basically why I started this and why I wanted to do this, because how do you ride that wave? You know what I mean? Like, creating habits like that, coming up with those realizations, um, and then, because that realization is huge, because you don't want to go down that negative mindset. The more you think a thought, the more it becomes a habit, right?
Yeah.
And I've found a lot of, I've been going through some, I've had tendonitis for a long time, and it's made me have to change my swing, and it's really affected how I throw. And I found myself getting upset because I have expectations, because I'm supposed to, I put work in, that work's supposed to pay off, but
Yeah.
I'm not able to do what I was, right? And I
Yeah.
just found that becoming almost a habit, you know what I mean? Where it used to be the opposite, where anything bad would happen, be like, oh, well, I'll make up for it on the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
having the ability to create that positive thought habit is gigantic.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you start telling yourself you suck after a couple bad shots, eventually you're going to start, whether you realize it or not, you're going to start believing that. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're going to slowly just start going. And then you might not necessarily see it that weekend, but then in practice and then it, in 2 or 3 weeks, now you're just, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in a rut and I just can't, just nothing's going my way. And you're just this negative ball of energy that you've slowly compounded yourself into.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, little things like that really do matter. And it's just some days if things aren't clicking, you just gotta, all right, you just gotta like confront it and accept it and just be like, all right, like putt does not feel good today. Like damage control, we got this, but let's like either we need to put it close or like try to really analyze that situation. But it's okay to just confront the problems and then roll with it if one day it just feels like it's just left you, because everyone has that where it's just,
Sure.
man, I just couldn't, like I missed like 320 footers, like what was happening. And as long as you keep a good headspace about it and just maybe put in a little work after the round and stuff, I mean, most of the time it's gone the next day. But if you have one of those rounds and you're just like, oh my gosh, I suck. But yeah, if you get kind of down on yourself and start telling yourself you suck, then you're gonna putt bad the rest of the weekend.
Yeah. If you almost become your thoughts, you have to live in your thoughts more than you live anywhere else, really. So if you're bringing in negative thoughts and you're in a negative mind space, that's almost ultimately what you're going to create.
Yeah. I
That's
mean, there really are just like two little, there's that one little voice that's always trying to test you. That's just like, oh, that wasn't good enough, or oh, that was a bad putt. Like, oh, don't miss this one low. And if you can learn how to control that voice, I mean, it's smooth sailing from there mentally.
yep. And that voice, that imposter that's inside you, there's it can come up. I found a lot of, as I was coming up in disc golf, it took me a long time to get halfway decent at disc golf. Um, and I think it was my head getting in the way more than anything. And a lot of a lot of the information that I would seek would be sports psychologists and mental side of golf stuff and other sports and things like that. Have you heard, have you had any tips or heard anything from anybody on that side of things? Maybe in college, did your coaches ever bring in a speaker or just bring up little concepts?
Yeah, there was one video that we watch, that we would be assigned to watch, and I'd watch it every year. But it was the Admiral McRaven speech, and it's like 20 minutes where he's speaking at some college for their graduation. But he's talking about the Navy SEALs and kind of talks about those little compounding wins and why these littler SEALs were kind of outworking all these other big guys and just powerhouses. And there's a lot of life lessons in there, and a lot of little ones that you can kind of personally reflect on. So that was the main thing. Never really had a ton of no speakers that are really standing out. I did meet Dan Gable. He popped into our wrestling room once. And for anyone that doesn't know who Dan Gable is, he's basically the Tiger Woods of wrestling, just the absolute GOAT. But his famous quote is, once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy. And so sometimes I always think of that quote and kind of reflect back on like, why do I think this is so hard right now? I've done so many things that are much harder than this. And so maybe for other people, reflect back if you're really struggling and just like kind of take a step away, deep breath, and just like, why am I getting so worked up right now? Like, I've done so many things that are harder than this. I've accomplished so much, and just kind of, again, it's all about pumping your head full of good energy, and it's so easy from there. But I'm also a big David Goggins fan, and that's just a personal one. He just amps me up, and his mantra of just stay hard, kind of don't let anything affect you, just block out all the haters.
Yeah, who's going to carry the boat?
Just put in the work, and you're going to see results. And there's a lot of people that are much more naturally gifted than me in the sport of disc golf, but I'm going to make sure I put in more work than they do.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that seems like the theme of your idea for your strong mental game is just consistent work, falling back on that practice routine, and grinding and pushing forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So there you go. Well, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Gavin Babcock. We'll meet again.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. Take it easy, Gavin.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you for watching or listening to the MindSide. Coming soon, episode 7, featuring Scott Withers.